I'm back again. Wahuelela. It's Chinese, by the way. I'm learning, practicing, and using Chinese as much as possible. Um, Maybe we'll talk about that sometime, maybe not. Oh, I will do that on a different channel. I do intend on making other channels, and language learning is something I'm going to kind of do one on. So, this is specifically the cardio part of where I changed my views. Most Nautilus let's back up to the West Point project. And the West Point project was, I think, I don't know, Joe Cerulli, tell me or tell us if this is correct, that you based the, or whoever did, main line, Roger Schwab, Joe Cerulli, the main lines on the layout or the organization of the West Point project. I'm not sure about that. I think I heard that somewhere. I don't know. But if that's true, kind of like to know. Anyway, idea of the West Point project was that you had a cardiovascular benefit by doing, and at that time, high intensity was defined as you're going from going to momentary muscular failure, and moving from exercise to exercise as quickly as possible. Boom, 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 boom. And on the main line at Gainesville Health and Fitness, we employed that. Every 2 minutes, down the thing. And when I say every 2 minutes, that was back in the days of 2 up, 4 down, 70 to 90 seconds. That was the time frame which was ideal for um, doing a set of exercise. We started uh, the leg extension. There would be sometimes lined up. We started somebody every 2 minutes. So boom, boom, just did thousands of workouts a week, a day sometimes. Um, and yes, you can get a cardiovascular benefit like that. Now, that is different from steady state, and uh, read Ken's stuff on the difference between steady state, and uh, Doug McGuff does some things about that. And pretty much everybody in the HIT field does information on the problems with steady state and why it's used, and uh, VO2 max, things like this. In my experience with cardiovascular, I don't want to say exercise, but cardiovascular things, I didn't even bother with VO2 max. I didn't bother with any of that. My focus was on something different. The two activities at that time that that I wanted to enhance, that I want to improve. First one was hiking. My family and I like to occasionally go on hikes. Another full disclosure here, since this is cardio. During the 90s, I did smoke off and on, cigarettes off and on. Not frequently enough to really interfere with my fitness, temporarily probably, but frequently enough that it was one of those reactions to stressful times. Um, but I would more often than not smoke. So that's again, full disclosure, want to be completely upfront about the conditions of the time and the memory, so that people, if they want to talk about this, can say, well, what about this, 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 and this? And so that was a factor of my condition at the time. Uh, Not smoking all the time, not anywhere near like a regular smoker, but a little more than people who go out to a bar and smoke alone at a bar, a little more. Um, but during the times when I would prepare for hikes, I had a hiking book, um, and it talked about using a heart rate monitor, chest strap monitor. And I don't, the first one I got was not a Polar, it was something else, but it was a heart rate monitor, and you had the watch, and this was before Bluetooth and all that. And with this monitor, the idea of it is, um, when you would hike, you would set, they had the ranges, this is, long after the aerobics and idea. You set these ranges. If you wanted to fat burn, if you wanted um, cardiovascular improvement, I don't know what people thought that was, but aerobics was fat burning. That's, I'll go into a saying later on in the cardio episode I'm going to do, but um, I wasn't interested in any of that. I had no care. It was not part of what I was doing this for. Um, in order, when you're hiking, you want to be able to maintain a consistent effort. Using the heart rate monitor, untrained, untrained, and I mean um, no cardiovascular training, no traditional cardiovascular training, treadmill, elliptical, bike, rower, whatever. Untrained. Um, Strength training only. No, normal, Nautilus, high intensity, MedX, super slow, whatever version of that you want to go. And I was doing it all the time in some form or fashion. My sustainable heart rate was about 130, 135. I go over that much, it's going to have to hold back, rest, maybe even sit down and rest a minute. Um, and you could set the watch to about plus or minus 5 or 10 um, 5 or 10 beats. And if you started going over, so like if I have it set to 130, um, if I start going over like to 135, 140, it'll go beep, 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 and I would note it back down a little bit, and I could maintain. If I started going beep, 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 my heart rate had dropped, and it was too easy. The purpose of this was not to exercise; it was to be able to maintain an effort as long as I could. I knew that um, if I could maintain that effort, I could keep going until nightfall, until it was time to camp. So this was a very useful tool. I also used this when I was training for inline speed skating. This is entertaining. I've only recently, in the last few years, found out some of the details about my motivation back then. I was interested in inline speed skating. There was a club here in Orlando. I thought it was an official club. I thought it was like part of a organization or something. And I remember the first time I saw it, I used to go on Saturdays or Sundays to SeaWorld, just relax. I'd go hang out at the Stingray pool and talk with people there. And a couple of times, I would always park in a faraway parking lot because I like to walk to think. But I parked, there was no attendant, no pay, no nothing. And one of the parking lots, I came in one day, there was a whole lot of people there speed skating. I was like, oh, cool, cool. I already had a set of rollerblades just hanging out with and playing with the kids and everything. I already had them. And as I drove in and parked and walked in, kept watching, and it's like, oh, that looks like fun. So we were online at that time, by that time, and I started coming up with the idea of training. Oh, great. Eh, I don't know if you guys can hear. There's always some noises going off. There's the school next door and alarms, probably doing testing. Um, anyway, the um, I started using the heart rate monitor to help me with that training. Um, my intention was to do. I started training 500 meters first, and 1,000, and 1,500. Um, I would use that. I would go to this was in West Orange near Windermere and Ocoee. I would go to places where I knew some of the skaters would train. These are high school tracks or middle school tracks, and that we would train. You'd see some guys there, and for many weeks I didn't even say anything to anybody, and I would just watch them and try to copy what they did and practice, starting techniques. And there's this push technique. I really struggled to master that. But the heart rate monitor helped me to maintain a level of training, a level of effort. So one of the things about that, if I consistently trained some form of traditional cardiovascular training, and most of the time what I did is I used an elliptical or the bike, and did some of the people remember Life Cycle, the Bally's Life Cycle, and the recumbent one, and there was I think they had an elliptical and maybe even thing too. But they had a interval training thing. You had this warm up and then 5 minute warm up and then intervals. And I would set it 20 minutes and I would just do that. And that was my whole thing. If I consistently trained, did these type of things at least once a week, I could maintain a heart rate in these efforts of 150. I could keep going. If I got up to 155, 160, I needed to back down. If I was untrained, 130. Trained, 150. I don't do much hiking or much things like that now. And I hope to find something, an app that is similar to that type of thing. I haven't really looked, but if I start to do hiking or anything like that again, I'm definitely going to pursue that. The other part of this was recovery heart rate. The watch was able to measure your recovery from exercise as a means assessing they said it was assessing health performance. I think it was just a practical uh, way. For example, after exercise, you stop, and I would kind of just pace. Some people would sit, but you hit the recovery, and it would measure how long it would take for your heart rate to come down to your, I think it's heart rate reserve. Heart rate reserve is where you have your heart rate and then plus or minus something. I can't remember. There was a heart rate reserve formula. Untrained, no cardiovascular exercise, 10 to 15 minutes. It would take me 10 to 15 minutes to come down to a level of normal heart rate. Trained, uh, typically 5 minutes, the best. I got off elliptical doing intervals one time, set it 2 minutes. I was back to the heart rate recovery level, not heart rate recovery, but the reserve heart rate level. And now I may be getting some of these terms completely backwards, or somebody can correct me if you want. That's fine. But that was my experience. I don't know why or how that effect work. Um, Now, as far as the effect, consider I was in different locations. I am a flatlander, sea level person here in Florida. Most of those locations were in elevations. Most of them were in similar elevations, but in vastly different climates, vastly different. So I'm sure hiking wise, those conditions had a significant impact. I know altitude has a huge impact. Let me see if I can do the Arthur. Huge, huge impact. I can't do it anymore. I used to be able to do that pretty well. Had a huge impact on heart rate recovery. I remember the first time I went up real high altitude hiking, I would walk about 10 feet. 10 seconds later, fine, 10 more feet. It's a different feeling. It takes about 3 days to acclimate to each level, but most of the time I was acclimated. Um, so, okay, I'm getting warm. Anyway, those two things, the um, training and having a physical condition, and I call this endurance training. I don't call this cardio. I call it endurance training because my goal was to be able to keep going. I wasn't training for my heart. I wasn't training for health. I wasn't training for my VO2 max. I was training so that I could keep going, and I wanted to understand what I needed to do to keep going. Um, and playing with it and adjusting it, I came to understand or learn or feel I'm not going to say concludes. I came to speculate. Let's go back to the word speculation. Cardiovascular training does have an effect on endurance. I don't know. Thousands of people, thousands of studies will show many things and why I haven't looked at them, don't know why. This was my experience is cardiovascular training. Whether it was just for me, whether it was to me, or whether this is something that is typical for many people, I don't know. Uh, that was my experience. I came to feel that we in the HIT community and Super Slow especially had been very wrong about cardio. I greatly prefer the term endurance training, and that word must be yelled. I'll tell more about that later. So that was my part about cardiovascular. These were the things that led to me having significant doubts about exercise, high intensity exercise, significant doubts about the principles and procedures we use to exercise ourselves. Now, for the average person wanting good fitness, these are good things. These are good high intensity training, super slow. These are safe, valuable things. You're not going to get hurt. I've been hurt many times. Never in the fitness center, the strength training. I've irritated many injuries, but I've never been hurt by strength training. Doug McGuff, one of the videos I saw, he said he's kind of surprised at how many injuries don't happen in a gym. I would agree. It's for how dangerous it could be. It's actually surprising that there's not as many injuries as we would expect. Human body is pretty resilient. We're not that delicate. We are delicate, but not that delicate. Right now, I'm pretty delicate after having this surgery, so I'm going to take a rest. And I hope this has been interesting. I hope my experience, some people will in the HIT community will consider it, compare it to their experiences, and compare it to experiences of their clients maybe, but mostly to your own experiences, mostly to how and why you came to the beliefs and conclusions you have now. I'm not sure what the next, there's a list in the introductory video of the videos I want to do. I'm not really sure which one I'm going to do next. I'm kind of having fun with this, so I may do the GHFC one, but I want to do one. I'm going to add one specifically on personal training and my observations with clients, but that's going to be later. For now, I wouldn't yet quite say like, share, and subscribe because I think this is going to be a temporary channel, but I do hope, I'm not trying to get this for likes and shares. I'm trying to do this to share experience, and I hope other people do too. Thank you for listening for 18 minutes and 53 seconds. And I hope to hear you or see you in the comments.